Last week, society was polarized by The Last Jedi. I'm Greg Boulden, and may the Force be with me. In 1976, George Lucas premiered footage to Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and Brian De Palma. The footage was without special effects and was shot over a blue screen, and the story, they said, made little sense. So much so that while having lunch, Brian De Palma screamed at Lucas about how he couldn't understand any of this story. He said George needed to describe what people were about to watch. And after that, we got the iconic Star Wars opening scroll. Lucas's vision came to life in Episode 4, A New Hope, and it created characters that have inspired countless filmmakers and writers. He completed his trilogy in 1983, with the storylines being wrapped up in a feel-good closing scene. The titling of his movies as episodes alluded that more was yet to be filmed. And 15 years later, special effects continued to get better. So Lucas thought it was time to continue his story by filming his prequels, episodes 1 through 3. The Phantom Menace came out in 1999 and was largely written off by critics and viewers as a flop. The special effects were the star, but the movie was something that seemed to rely too much on green screens and not enough on realism. Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, they were the stars, and Jar Jar Binks was the poster child for everything wrong with Lucas revisiting the saga. Over the next two films, Lucas wrote wooden dialogue, and he missed perfection on almost every scene. The birth of Vader in Episode 3 was rewarding, but fans had turned on George and his creation. 2005 would be the last year we saw George at the helm of the franchise. George Lucas took the criticism personally. He went into hiding, refusing to produce the last of the three-part trilogy that he started. He had scripted Episodes 7 through 9, but fans were unsure we would ever see them. And on October 30th, 2012, Disney purchased the Star Wars franchise for $4 billion, $2 billion in cash and $2 billion in Disney stock.
Today, I am proud to announce the Walt Disney Company is acquiring Lucasfilm, the global entertainment company founded by George Lucas and the home of the legendary Star Wars franchise. Fans can expect a new feature film, Star Wars Episode 7, in theaters worldwide in 2015.
This excited many as they expected Disney to film the final three films. And they didn't need to wait long for Disney to resurrect the Star Wars that everybody wanted when they announced Episodes 7 through 9 would begin to come out in 2015 with J.J. Abrams at the helm. Lucas would announce that Disney was provided treatments for the next trilogy, but they were not keen on having him involved. He went on to describe the feeling as a breakup. Mutual but hard feelings had developed. And when he saw the film, he would go on to claim, it was a movie for the fans. It was a backhanded compliment to the new Disney Star Wars series. Episode 7 would pick up years after Episode 6 and rejoin the saga around a new generation. The Skywalkers had been the story for Episodes 1 through 6, and the thought was they would remain the story to finish the storyline. J.J. Abrams made a safe film that was formulaic, while expanding characters and mildly reintroducing us to the elder Skywalker family and friends. He made the Episode 7 about Han Solo and the search for Luke. Leia stayed in the background as the leader of the Resistance. So, when Luke appeared at the end of Episode 7, fans rejoiced in the possibilities of the next movie. Luke was back! The Skywalker family story would get a rightful and proper send-off as Disney developed Rey and answered questions about her heritage. We had Kylo Ren, who was the son of Han Solo, and General Leia Organa, and the mysteriously powerful Snoke. Interesting characters were developed by Abrams, and we were ready for a great follow-up. A 2-year wait for Rian Johnson's Episode 8 began. The hype was rising, and Disney had the support of all the fans. However, reports started to come out that Mark Hamill was unhappy with the script and the handling of Luke's story. So how would Star Wars The Last Jedi be received by critics and the fans? On Thursday, the answers to our questions were finally revealed. As I sat in the theater, my pulse raced, and the opening fight scene with Poe flying rogue from orders was thrilling, until it wasn't. 5 minutes of heart-racing fun was ruined by disbelief when Rian Johnson decides that humans can breathe in the vacuum of space and that the gravity all of a sudden exists as bombs have to be dropped to the ship below. And that's just the start of my problems with this film. And thinking about my feelings, I don't hate the film, I hate Rian Johnson. In 2.5 hours, Ryan destroyed my childhood. He did so with a script so full of his and Disney's own ego and vision, it neglects the original content and the respect necessary to deliver the content. There is multiple lines in this film that are completely out of character. They create plot holes, and they seem like treason to the saga. So let me get down to it. But first, let me tell you what the movie got right. I screened the movie in IMAX in 3D and can state, Steve Yedlin continues to work well in capturing the vision for the big screen. The visuals are expansive, well-framed, and highly immersive. This is one of the best-looking films I've seen in 3D, ever. I will even state this is the best film Star Wars in the entire franchise. Second, if you separate what you know about Star Wars from the film, the movie, it's just a fun standalone. And it has a Marvel-style sense of humor. It has serious moments with its political overtones, and it's got this existential description of the Force that I really liked. And lastly, the scenes of conflict work well in choreography, but at times they're jarring in disbelief. As a standalone film not related to the original trilogy, I give it 4 out of 5 stars. However, one cannot simply review this film in a narrow view. This is Star Wars. This is the Skywalker's journey, or was. And that's where I start to hate the film. Disney and Ryan decided the Skywalkers were not going to be central to the continuation of their story. But before we get there for episode 9, let's start with my issues with the film. First, there's 2 ways to watch a film. The first is when you mindlessly just watch and enjoy for entertainment. The second is through a critical lens, ones that's willing to answer or ask questions and how they made the choices on the screen. And ever since film school, I strive to enjoy, but the movies I'm really looking forward to get scrutinized a little bit more diligently. I believe this viewing habit is where the sharp difference of opinion builds. Blockbuster movies are normally given a free pass to up the entertainment factor and ignore the flaws. But this film has a ton of flaws. So many, it distracted me from having fun during the movie. Unfortunately, I must review this with spoilers because to not acknowledge certain events would be unfair to the full review. So if you have not seen this movie and you plan to, stop this right now. Okay, this film is full of contrived plots that not only insult the viewer's intelligence by offering no true exposition, but many times they are a complete waste of time as the payoff never comes. The Star Wars films have always been based in a universe of multiple ships and strengths and weaknesses. In combat, some are faster than others. However, we're supposed to suspend our belief and spend 2 hours with enemy and resistant forces moving at the exact same speed and just out of range while fuel starts running low. Then there's Finn and Rose. This entire sub-story was a complete waste of time and did nothing to move the story forward. In fact, it eventually was used to kill off the most pointless character I've seen in Star Wars, Captain Phasma. We're led to believe in The Force Awakens that she's this feared person and this leader. She was underutilized in that film, and in this one she's killed with ease by Finn. They would have done much better just to leave Finn in a coma until episode 9. This whole side story was nothing more than Rian Johnson feeling the need to make use of these characters while sending us on a mission with no payoff and no point to the film other than to show the children of Canto Bight, which they allude to at the end of the film. Finn's mishandling was just the beginning of Rian Johnson's failures as a Star Wars writer. His decision to waste the viewer's time is apropos for showing the respect he brings to the Star Wars universe, which, to put it nicely, is not very respectful of legacy at all. And breaking from expectations can also be a great way to make a story more interesting, because when General Leia Organa is blasted out of her ship and floating through space peacefully, I was filled with shock. I had sadness. I thought that was the end. I mean, Carrie Fisher in real life died last year, 2016. So I figured they would dictate they would kill her off some way in episode 8. Anyway, had Ryan left Leia there, it would have been poignant and amazing cinema. However, because he wanted to make a statement with her use of the Force, see, she just magically awakens and she force pulls herself back to her ship. And the vacuum of space doesn't phase her body or her breathing, so we must suspend disbelief. The Force has always had limits, come on. Ryan decided to remove the limits in this film, and by keeping Leia alive, created a moment that is now a larger problem moving forward than Disney would ever care to admit. And then there's Rey and Luke. J.J. Abrams developed Rey as a character shrouded in mystery and left her on an island staring at Luke with Anakin's lightsaber. We waited 2 years for what comes next. And Rian Johnson comes in. He has Luke take the lightsaber and he tosses it over his shoulder like a petulant child throwing a tantrum. Is this humor appropriate? Because it felt wrong on so many levels. It pulled me right out of the film and I stopped the enjoyment and started thinking, This is where the movie started going downhill for me. Mark Hamill never reprised his role as Luke in this film. Mark Hamill played Mark Hamill, the Joker, the trickster, rolled into his own smart aleck personality. I'm expected to believe a hermit who seems angry at the world would turn into a wise guy? Where was that in the original trilogy? And the best scene of Luke was with R2-D2, and even that seemed to be made out of necessity, and not out of love and understanding of the relationship. Chewbacca was reduced to a comical print, serving nothing more than a few scenes with the porgs. And when Luke speaks with Rey, the lazy writing truly begins to unravel. He states,
"I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now."
However, it obviously did scare him. It scared him so much he thought about killing Kylo Ren, which is how this whole mess began. It's the whole reason we have the Last Jedi movie. We're told that Kylo left with 6 Jedi apprentices and the rest were killed. This makes so little sense. Where are they? Why did some leave? Why were some killed? What exactly was Luke doing to these poor children for this type of revolt? It's ridiculous. There's more questions than answers because clearly Rian just didn't care enough to do the work on this. Rian did care about what people would say about how the movie was filmed. This becomes apparent because when Rey heads down to the Mirror of Truth, the director of photography, Steve Yedlin, has consistently made great-looking films with Johnson, and this movie is no different. But great looks can't hide the ugliness within. As the viewer is treated to an amazing, artful scene with Rey and her reflection, we await the big reveal. Except, it never comes. There's no payoff. Just a Rian Johnson self-love fest made for his own ego, because it obviously has no role in moving the plot forward. In fact, there's still no clarity to the pit or the mirror, and it doesn't seem to matter because once again, when writing this film, he took the easy way out, over and over again, not needing to deal with exposition or explanation. Even Rey's parents are revealed to be nobodies. If JJ set out to create mystery and intrigue with characters in The Force Awakens, Rian decided to just burn the whole damn thing down and do his own thing. One of the coolest characters was Snoke, an evil presence shrouded in mystery. However, despite his masterful use of the Force, he's killed rather easily by Kylo while distracted by a Force holding Rey. Is another easy decision that seems more destructive to the saga than constructive. And we also realize that Kylo wanted the power to lead all along, which makes absolutely little sense. He's unable to fire on Leia, he's being kind to Rey, there's still good within him, and then gone. There's nothing but darkness and hatred. And his character becomes a boring one-dimensional villain. And the stakes don't feel too high. Despite the Resistance losing the majority of their army, Rey bested Kylo once before, so most likely, he's going to lose to her again. Then we have this issue with a hyperdriving a ship into a ship. And what was probably one of the coolest moments of the film, I wondered if this is even possible. Why haven't they used this technique before? Because it seems to me this would solve a ton of their problems in all the other movies. It's another opportunity that was missed, I guess. Can you imagine how amazing it would have been to put Leia in that ship instead? That would have been an amazing send-off. Speaking of send-offs, what happened to Han Solo's mourning? It becomes a footnote in just a few quick moments at the beginning. Anyways, it was an easy solution that having the right smarter, while hyperdriving looked cool, it was an idea that seemed more like an easy way out. The payoff existed there, but it felt empty because there was such a great loss to the Resistance. The film also felt empty at times because the Star Wars universe just seemed to disappear. The film was so focused on stalling ships that the galaxy doesn't feel threatened, just the Resistance. Which brings me to the final act, Luke versus Kylo. Amazing visuals, great blocking, and the payoff when Luke brushes off his shoulder and you see him floating back on Ahch-To. It all works phenomenally well, and it's just a jaw-dropping moment. Ruined just moments later when Luke becomes one with the Force. See, it seems that holo-projecting oneself so intently can cause someone's life force to become the Force. And I hated this choice. Honestly, it was in Luke's death that the film made its gravest sin. Star Wars was about the Anakin and Luke story. With Carrie Fisher dead and no chance of Leia next film, the trio's gone. My love for Star Wars was based around Han, Luke, and Leia. With Luke being the inspirational Jedi leader that had hope, I don't know. He's dead now, so hope's gone. And so I thought about this for the past week. And so here's some real talk to myself. Why am I so angry at this film? Was the film really that bad? And so I came to this conclusion. I'm the problem. And perhaps in 2017, this is a bitter pill to swallow. The new is replacing the old. It was inevitable. I'm getting old. My heroes are fading. Will I accept the change or will I push back? How am I going to respond? This story shook me because it awoke a truth. I'm dying. What I value is not what the future may value. Neither of us are wrong, but one of us is going to need the change. They made that obvious in the movie too, but it seemed like it was aimed at the older fans. I think Rian and Disney is asking the older fans to let their feelings about the franchise die. Let this new generation have it. Whether you think they have the right to do this or not, I understand the point. I just don't like it. It feels like Rian Johnson was hired to separate us from the franchise. Knowing we would hate him for this, they offered him control of the next trilogy, a franchise with a huge name, a clean slate aimed at a younger and younger audience. But it's business. It's the circle of life. And so I'm looking at the movie critically and able to acknowledge the movie was far from perfect, but neither was my vision and hope for the films. In what is mirrored in politics around us, we can accept our situation or we can clap back. And the film clapped back against my ideals of Star Wars, and I was polarized. So a larger question can be raised. What was more threatened in this film, the George Lucas Star Wars universe, or your personal view of the saga? It's in this realization I can let go of my hatred for The Last Jedi. Instead, I'll view it as entertainment. Anything more, and I may need to reevaluate my own personal happiness in this world. It's not about me. It's about the future and how much I'll support it for my own children. What's your thoughts? Do you agree with me or disagree with me? Subscribe and comment below. Thanks for your time. This has been Greg Boulden, and the Force has been with us.